Okay, welcome everybody to one of our last virtual panels before we break for Pesach. This is an academics panel about Gann. It's another one. It's a backed by popular demand because it was a really well attended panel and there were a lot of questions that were generated even afterwards. So we wanted the opportunity to invite you back to ask your questions again. I want to welcome everybody today. I want to let you know I'm recording this session so we can put it up on our accepted students page. And I want to thank you all. I want to thank our guests, many of whom are now will be students in September. So congratulations to all of you. And of course, I want to welcome my amazing admission staff, Gina and Emily, who are on here, who have been working so hard to get you information and help you learn what you need to know about Gann. And finally, our amazing faculty and staff at Gann and our students, of course, who are the reason we're here and are what really make our home in Waltham tick. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lily or Miss RG. A couple of things in terms of Zoom etiquette. We ask that people mute their mics in case the dog barks or somebody knocks on the door. And if you have a question, you can either raise your hand, you can unmute yourself and ask it, or you can put it in the chat, either privately to me or to everybody, and we will make sure we answer it. So with that, I'm going to toss it to Lily.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I hope you've had a nice Sunday. It's been such a pleasure to be able to go outside this weekend. It's made a huge difference in my life. So I hope you've all gotten a chance to enjoy it a little bit. So I am the English Department Chair and Assistant Director of Teaching at Gann. This is my 10th year at the school that I'm finishing up. So I'm going to briefly introduce or ask my colleagues and my students, our students, to introduce themselves. And then we're going to get started. Just so everyone knows sort of the format of today's Zoom call. I'm going to give a brief, after everyone introduces themselves, I'm going to give a brief overview of sort of what our academic program looks like, and then really open it up to questions. So like Wendy said, you can put your questions in the chat, either publicly or privately. You can, is that true, Wendy? They can send a question directly to you and you can ping it to me, or you can ping it directly to me in the chat. So those of you who are Gann officials on the call, so students and faculty, I'll call on you, and if you could sort of share who you are and maybe one moment that makes you feel like something that has happened in an academic course or experience that is really unique to Gann. And let's try and keep it to like 30 seconds each. All right, so we're gonna just go across on my Zoom grid. So Greg Key, you get to start. Who are you?
I am Mr. Key. I'm a math teacher. I've been at Gann a little over 11 years. I teach, in addition to a wide range of math courses, I teach how to really run a business and Marketing 101. And this fall in Marketing 101, I got a chance to give all of my students $2 million for various promotional campaigns for actual products that exist in the world. And they were evaluated on how effectively they decided to spend that $2 million, which I think was a lot of fun.
Great, thanks. Abby?
Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Shapiro. I'm an English teacher at Gann. I am currently teaching 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. My 11th grade class is the AP 11th grade class, and my 12th grade class is a Shakespeare seminar. Let's see, something that we're going to do in my 10th grade class. We just finished reading Frankenstein and the students are writing essays about it. But on Tuesday, I'm going to show them some scenes from the 1930s Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein movies, and also some of Young Frankenstein by Mel Brooks. And hopefully that will send them off, show them what Hollywood did with the book that they read.
Awesome, thanks. Elijah?
Hi everyone, my name is Elijah Weisman. I'm a senior at Gann. I came from the Waldorf School in Lexington, and I think a Gann academic moment that really epitomizes some of my classes was earlier this year in a class about the Supreme Court with Mr. Cadden, who's on this call as well. We had oral arguments for a Supreme Court case. Some of us were assigned to be justices, some to be the petitioner, and some the respondent. And the petitioner and respondent submitted briefs, the justices wrote rulings, and we had oral arguments in our class.
Awesome. Thanks. Asaf?
Hi, I'm Asaf Devere. I'm a 10th grader at Gann, and I went to JCDS before Gann. Something that kind of like embodies Gann is like projects, I guess. So last year in 9th grade in my physics class, we had a roller coaster project where first we had to build this massive roller coaster and then test it with marbles, paint it however we wanted, and then we would do the math and physics behind it. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Great. Mr. Cadden?
Hello, I'm Yoni Cadden. I'm the history department chair, and I teach three history classes. I teach AP US History, Standard US History, and the Supreme Court class to which Elijah just alluded. I'll tell a quick story about that Supreme Court class. Something that really, one of the things I love about teaching again are the opportunities that you have to do the kinds of units like the one he described or like the one we actually just finished via Zoom. We had the lawyer, Michelle Carter's lawyer. I don't know if for those of you remember Michelle Carter. So she was convicted not that long ago of a pretty horrible set of circumstances where she tried to convince her boyfriend to commit suicide. And so her lawyer joined our class. We had several classes prepping for that. And then he joined the class to talk about that experience. But what particularly makes me think about Gann when I think about this is as we were prepping for it, he was asking like, what level should he pitch this to? And so he described the class that he gave at Harvard Law School talking about these topics. And I said to him, okay, so whatever you're imagining about Harvard Law and the level you pitch that to, amp it up one notch. And he did. And it was an unbelievable conversation. The kids were at the top of their game. They were asking unbelievable questions. And he was talking to them in pretty much the exact same way he talked to the justices on the Supreme Judicial Court when he was arguing the case. That, to me, is the epitome of Gann Academy.
Awesome. Elijah, can you give a thumbs up if you agree with that assessment of Mr. Cadden?
Or you better, buddy. That's right.
All right. Rachel Frankel, Senorita.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Frankel, or Senorita Frankel. I'm a Spanish teacher. This is my 4th year at Gann. I teach Spanish 2, Spanish 4, which is about Latin American political history, and Spanish 6, which is an immigration film class. And we actually watch movies in all of our classes and really try to use that to sort of learn about the culture, the history, the language. It's not like an extra thing that we do. It's really part of the curriculum. And one really great unit that I had in my Spanish 6 class, which Elijah is part of, we watched a movie about Jewish immigrants to Mexico in the 1920s. And it was just really great to hear all of the ways that the students were making connections with their own family histories while seeing sort of a new Jewish narrative that was not as familiar to us.
Cool. Thanks. Emma?
Hi, I'm Emma Weiss. I'm a 9th grader. I went to the Atrium School for middle school, and something about just in general for all the Gann classes is it's really easy to like connect with your teachers and ask them questions if you need help, which has been really nice.
Beautiful. Mr. Conti?
Hi, so I'm Matt Conti. I teach in the Jewish Studies department. I've also been a dean in the school for 4 years. And one of the classes I teach this year in 11th grade
Matt, can you just pause for 1 second and say, what do deans do?
Sure, sorry. So we just sort of oversee the classes and the student experiences at Gann, right? So the 10th grade class is the one I've been working with. So Asaf is a member of that class. And it's just helping, every student has an advisor. And so I work with the advisors to make sure everything's going smoothly, and sometimes working with the teachers. And it's just a way of making sure that every student is getting what they need at the school. So I've been doing that for part of the half of my time. And then I teach in the Jewish Studies department. And a very sort of like Gann thing that's in one of my classes, we're starting a bioethics. It's like bioethics this year. And so we do a crash course on sort of like ethical decision making. and there's this classic kind of a trolley problem that like ethical moral theorists use. And in the class, I was able to use a clip from The Good Place, which I felt was like really cool for me. But even, you know, like more relevant as I'm like reading all of these articles about medical systems and the way that COVID-19 is impacting them, you know, there was this article I was reading that brought in the trolley problem. So I was able to bring that article back to class and sort of use something we're learning to understand kind of like the craziness of the world around us right now too. And so that's just something how, you know, it's this Jewish studies class, but we're also sort of thinking about these big issues that are going on in the world too. So very Gann.
All right, Jordan Goldstein, I think you're the last Gann native.
Awesome. So my name is Jordan. I'm in 10th grade. Kind of as a continuation of what Mr. Conti was just speaking about really doing projects with a lot of relevance to today's world. I did a really interesting project in my Arabic class, which was we designed a website for Arab immigrants coming to the New England area. And there are 5 kids in my class, so we each wrote a little kind of blurb about a specific part of New England life. So I, for instance, wrote about like different activities that you can do, different like how you can go to Boston Sports Club and things like that. And if it would be helpful, I can even send a link to the website if you guys just want to see what a kind of final project looks like. But it was a really meaningful experience. And we also went to a museum in preparation to kind of look at different artistic representations of immigrants. So yeah.
That's great. Jordan, definitely put the website in the chat box so we can take a look. So thanks everyone. I'm going to give just like a brief overview. I'm sure many of you have heard from Gina or from Emily or from Wendy sort of what the 4-year Gann experience might look like academically. But just to give you a brief sort of theoretical overview, essentially what we're doing is we're really aligned with where the vanguard of educational best practices are in independent schools nationwide. And what that's called, the language we use to describe it, is mastery-based learning. And so what that means is in my English class and in Yoni's history class and in Matt's Jewish studies class, all the kids are reading and writing about really complex texts, right? And so the idea of mastery-based learning is that all of us are working with shared purpose so that when Elijah's the only kid on this call who's a senior, but that Elijah's going to walk out our doors at the end of June having mastered all of these really core transferable skills like critical thinking, and Matt referred to ethical decision-making, creative processing, collaboration, all of these sort of transferable skills that exist in each one of our disciplines specifically, but that we really see as being aligned and transferable across what we're doing. And of course, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would argue that they're happening in the math and science fields as well. And so that's sort of the name of the type of educational philosophy that we use and are deeply, deeply embedded in. You can see all the teachers on this call nodding because this is sort of the way that we talk about what teaching and learning means. And so each course is designed at each grade level to have specific learning goals that build over time and scaffold student learning, so that, for example, in my 12th grade English class, we are finishing reading Educated, which is a memoir by Tara Westover. It's the culmination of our year of talking about change, trauma, and resilience. And what my students are able to do now is their final project is to create a verbal collage. It's a type of essay in which they're taking pieces of all of the texts that we've read this year. They're taking pieces of their own writing, and they're using new forms of writing in order to synthesize that thinking. And even though it's a different type of writing than what we've asked them to do, they've had so much experience in all of their classes across the disciplines that they're able to sort of level up. Even now at the very end of, we're really quite close to the finish line with them, that they're able to synthesize their learning in an even new way. And so that's the type of teaching and learning that we're really focused on. And so we're part of something called the Mastery Transcript Consortium, which is something that's happening nationwide among sort of the highest tier of independent schools to really sort of focus on student learning outcomes. So that's sort of the theoretical underpinning. Of course, the kids on this call probably never heard of that before. Really what hopefully they're experiencing is just like awesome dynamic classes every day. And I think something Emma alluded to was her ability to connect to teachers. And I would say that, you know, well, I'll throw this to the kids. Oftentimes, Gann students say the best part of Gann is their connections to their teachers. Can any of you sort of tell us about that or give us an example of a moment where you felt really like your connection to your teacher was serving your learning? Jordan, please go ahead.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of an interesting case because I'm going to talk about my minion, which is, for those of you who don't know, on Mondays and Thursdays, we all meet in Zman Kodesh groups, which it means holy time. And that's kind of our form of praying. I'm in a discussion-based minion that focuses on spirituality. And I think over this year, my minion has grown really close. And one time we even went and had Shabbat dinner at our minion leader's house, which like a group of students drove up to this teacher's house and we had Shabbat dinner there, and it was a really incredible experience.
Great, thanks, Jordan. Anybody else have one? Elijah, go ahead.
I just think the nature of Gann being a pretty small school and having so many faculty is that you really have good access to those faculty and you can meet with them whenever you need to. And so I'll have meetings with my teachers if I need to go over material before a test, or if I just want to discuss the topic further from class. You can go to a teacher's office and meet with them for 30, 45 an hour and just nail down what you need to do. Or for example, with Mr. Key, before my course last year with him, we set up that we'd kind of meet every couple weeks, go over the material, so that by the time we reach the exam, I'd have had that review with him. I'd be more prepared for it. So whatever support you need outside of class is definitely there from your teachers.
Great. Any other examples? I see a couple more questions in the chat box. Do any teachers want to talk about how they sort of use one-on-one time with kids to really push them in new directions? Rachel, great.
One thing that I think Gann does really well is differentiation, which is sort of meeting each student where he, she, they is at that moment. And so I can, in my Spanish classes, assign a writing assignment, a listening assignment, speaking assignment, presentation, anything. And the students always have the option to come meet with me. And even some of my top students do, just to double check. My students that are struggling meet with me, and I tell them, you know where my office is, I'm always available. And I really think of it as like a learning opportunity when my students meet with me, more than no one's ever in trouble, anything like that. It's just another touch point to get to the mastery of whatever we're working on at the moment.
Perfect. Okay, I see a question in the chat box about, obviously you guys are at three different parts of your Gann experience, or 4 different parts, but 3 grades. But there's a question in the chat box about how you feel like Gann is preparing you for life after Gann. So obviously, Elijah, you're furthest along in that pathway. But even Emma, Jordan, and Asaf, if you guys have any questions or any thoughts about how you feel like Gann's preparing you for what's next.
So obviously I'm not in college yet. I can't speak to how I've applied Gann learning, but I can talk about how I've been prepared. So I think Gann prepares you really well for going out into the real world, into college, and having these tangible skills that you're able to apply to many different disciplines, because it's not just the content that you're learning at Gann, it's these skills. It's this close reading skill that you might learn in history, but also applies to your math and word problems, and also applies to your English, of course. So I think that it's these tangible skills that you'll be able to take out into the world and apply to whatever you're doing that has really made a difference. Besides the fact that Gann is cultivating you as a person and with your personal ethics and your relationships and your ability to have good relationship with your teachers or professors. I think that's something that I'll definitely take away from Gann. I feel very aptly prepared to move on to my next step in life.
Great. Any underclassmen who feel like you already see those pieces of yourself developing? Jordan, please go ahead.
Yeah, well, I will just say one quick thing to add on to what Elijah said, because he was talking about learning that is really applicable over a wide variety of subjects. But I think it's also important to know that at Gann, we have like a bunch of specific classes that are oriented towards like things later on in life. Like we were talking about Mr. Key's business module earlier, which I haven't had the pleasure of taking yet. I hope to at some time in the next 2 years. But
Hi, Jack.
yeah, just different things like that, different courses that specifically can prepare you for things that you will see outside of college, outside of high school.
Great. Jack, will you introduce yourself? We have a
Hi, I'm so sorry I'm late.
We're so happy she's here.
Yes, I'm so sorry I was late. I was actually on a different Zoom call with family members and I didn't see this one until quite late. I feel bad. I'm
We're
sorry.
happy you're here. Will you tell us what grade you're in, how you came to Gann, and maybe one thing that's been special for you in your experience so far?
I'm a junior, so 11th grade, and I'm a transfer student. So this is my first year at Gann. And I guess something special about Gann, I mean, for the most part, all of it, I've had really great experiences with teachers and with students in general. And it's been a really good, both social and academic environment combined. Yeah. And especially starting Hebrew my junior year has been a little tough, but I've gotten really great support from my teachers and the other students. So.
Excellent, terrific, thanks so much. Okay, so each one of you has sort of had a slightly different pathway through Gann so far in terms of the academics that you've chosen and opted into and sort of the things you're into. Asaf, I'm just telling you now that I'm gonna cold call you because we haven't heard much from you yet. And maybe Asaf and Emma and Jack, if you guys want, oh, my 4-year-old is coming in the room. So, okay, I'll be there in just a minute. So if you guys could share with us a little bit about sort of what choices you've made that have made your Gann experience special, or sort of new things that you've tried out that you didn't know you were going to be into, just sort of what's been new, or what choices have you been able to make that have been exciting. So Asaf, go ahead, you start.
Yeah, so I signed up for Engineering 1 at the start of freshman year, and I didn't really know what to expect. And like, it wasn't really that big of a curriculum last year, but this year there's a whole CD&F department and a lab upstairs.
So pause for 1 sec. So that stands for Computing, Design, and Fabrication. Great, yeah. Keep going.
And so this year I'm taking another engineering course, and I never really thought I'd be so like interested in it, but it's probably my favorite part about academics at Gann. And yeah, I've gotten really into it.
Awesome, thanks. Emma, yay.
So I'm taking Spanish 2 with Senorita Frankel, and I took some Spanish in middle school, but it wasn't like the best program. So it's been really nice to be able to continue that. And yeah, and also this is my first year learning Hebrew. So that's also been pretty interesting and fun and good.
Great. Anyone else on things you've tried out? Elijah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess I can speak from, I've registered for all my classes. I'm almost done with all my classes. So basically, again, you have your 2 academic sections, I would say. You have your Jewish studies and Hebrew classes, and you have your other core academic classes. So I've been able to take 4 years of Hebrew and Jewish studies, which I've really enjoyed because that wasn't something that I had in my old school. And you can even within that tailor it to what you're interested in terms of the Jewish studies classes especially. And then in terms of my other academic classes, I've got to take Spanish for my whole time here. So I've got to take 2 languages while I've been at Gann. This year I'm taking 2 history classes because I'm really interested in that. And senior year, you get to kind of focus your history classes on really specific topics of what you're interested in. Obviously, I've taken English and math all 4 years. Science, I've been able to take advanced science courses. Math and science are leveled. So you can kind of tailor that to what you're interested in. And then I have had the opportunity to take AP courses at Gann. So there's, for not a massive student body, there's so many courses that are available to you to tailor to your level and your interests. And I've really found those courses that I really enjoyed at Gann and been able to take advantage of those.
Thanks. Jack, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add on to that. I think something about Gann that's been really great for me is there's so many different options in terms of courses and what you are interested in. And if there's anything that you feel you didn't really see in a course that you wanted to learn extra about, there's like so many different clubs on some things like that are so random. Like there's one for hot sauce club, which is, a favorite. But then there's also stuff like Women in STEM Club, which is also really fun. I really enjoy that club, and we've had some really cool speakers. There's
just for those of us who are not familiar with the Gannism of girls in STEM or women in STEM, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
That's basically in terms of anything like math, science, engineering in that area, because, in the past there's been sometimes a lack of women involved in that or recognized in that due to either pressure or circumstances around women in those type of fields. It's sort of a way to really encourage girls who are interested in it to hear from women in it and their jobs and how it's affected them and how they really enjoy their careers and their work, and how you, like a girl, can be interested in it and can participate. And they also do a lot of they're really good at getting people interested in it and bringing other girls in, which has been really great. And we've had some good speakers there. But in terms of other clubs, there's also like math club, and there's a variety of clubs. And then there's other stuff, extracurriculars like robotics and mock trial. And like those are just a couple that I know, but like there's really a lot of options, which has been really great for me, I think, because coming in so late, I think I was a little overwhelmed at first because I was like, oh, what do I want to focus on? And because I'm sort of used to the idea of, oh, you have to pick one thing to focus on and spend your time on. But in reality, there's so many different options, and they really help support you in choosing what you're interested in and what you want to focus on. So I've really found that is a good part of Gann.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, I'm just going to read some questions here from the chat box. How do students progress through the four-year experience to reach their own personal goals? Or taking AP classes, or is it possible to create your own curriculum or projects? So obviously, again, you guys are in different parts of your experience, but even, Emma, Asaf, and Jordan, if you guys are gonna like project forward, how do you imagine that you're gonna be able to sort of have a four-year experience that's gonna help you feel prepared for what's next? Or reach your own personal goals, even if they're not external facing. Asaf, please go ahead.
So, well, with like the advanced courses and APs, as was in the question, in 9th grade, you start off with like all regular classes, and that kind of lets you see what you're more interested in, if you're more of a humanities person or if you're more into STEM. And then after 9th grade, you can branch off and start taking advanced courses. And so, yeah, I think that kind of like helps you develop starting in 9th grade, go all the way to senior year, kind of see what you're interested in. And so like most people don't come into 9th grade knowing what they want to do after high school. And yeah, kind of like puts you on a path, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I want to just like put in a plug here for advisory and the role that advising plays in what you're describing, Asaf. So students, you guys can agree or disagree. Oh, yay, Mr. Key has something to say about that. Go right ahead.
Yes, one of my advisees, I advise 10th graders, including Asaf, and one of my 10th graders has designed a course for next year that she wants to take, an independent study that she's already gotten approved on Renaissance music. So she's working with Mr. Daniels, one of the music teachers at Gann, because she has a very strong interest in music and in a particular era. So she was able to design an independent study course for her junior year that will allow her to do that, which I think is a great reflection on Gann.
Awesome, thanks. So yeah, that's a great example, Greg. And for each one of my advisees are 12th graders, so I've been with them for 4 years. And and sorry, I'm just getting distracted by the questions tumbling in. So my 12th grade advisees have had, there's 9 of them, they've each had their own pathway. And, you know, an interesting thing for them to think about is, you know, for some kids, I think Asaf's right. They have no idea until they've gone through a year of high school to be like, oh, turns out I'm kind of good at math. I guess I'm going to pursue that, you know, like Ms. RG, how am I going to do that? What's next steps for me, you know? And other students who are like, I want to be an artist. I'm not just doodling because I'm not paying attention. I'm doodling because I love art. And like, what options are available for me in that? And, you know, so a big part of our roles as advisors is to help sort of see that holistic picture for students and shape it for them. Addie, come here. Sorry, this is my daughter, Addie. She's 4.5. She's on a Zoom birthday party for her friend's new baby. Addie, I will be down when I'm done with this, okay? I can't wait to see the baby. You can come sit with me.
As you can see, our teachers are juggling everything, including their own families, young families. So Lily, I'm so sorry we're taking you away from your Sunday afternoon. Thank you. And she can come join us.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say about advising. But I see that, Mr. Cadden, do you have a story to share about sort of helping kids shape their own pathway?
I'll let Lily off the hook. Sure. So I think that this actually combines both the idea of how we help students to shape their own pathway and in terms of choice, because yes, students have the ability to chart their own paths, but in many ways teachers do too. So I'll just tell you one story about a path that the 11th grade U.S. history class has charted. So right next door to the Gann Academy is a 200-acre former institution called the Fernald School that it turns out, we learned as we investigated a little bit, was the first state-funded institution for people with cognitive disabilities in the entire Western Hemisphere. And it was, in fact, in many ways, it was the role model institution for all the others in the country. Looked to the Fernald School to think about how they would set up their institution. So it's a really historically significant place. And so the 11th grade team, and Lily was actually a part of this as well on the ground floor of developing this program, with the administration's not only full backing, but blessing on this, said we're going to turn the standard U.S. history class of colonial history to the present into one in which we have the kids research the story of the Fernald School, research the history of disability in the country, and that will become the U.S. history class. It's U.S. history through the lens of ability and disability, which in so many ways really is the story of America that we never talk about. And then we're going to try to tell this story to the public, because nobody knows what happened in the Fernald School. Very few people know about the history of disability in this country and how vital it is a story to us as a country, to the country as a whole. And so really what we were telling the kids is not only is there a story of disability that nobody knows that you need to learn about, but you are going to become the public historians. You are the ones who are going to start telling these stories to the public. And in our first year, that was for almost a full year at a public history venue, at a museum. We had a full exhibit dedicated to disability history. The next year we wrote some books. And during that, the kids really were the ones who were crafting the stories. They were the one charting the path of the research. They were the one choosing which stories they were going to be telling. I mean, in many ways, they're the ones who designed that U.S. history class. And they have been published in the Boston Globe. They've been published in the New York Times, NPR, et cetera. That is the level of work that our kids, and this is the non-AP 11th grade, this is the level of work that our kids are doing at Gann Academy.
I see from Sam that at JCDS, your learning adventure was making a proposal for Fernald. That's amazing. I love that alignment. Okay, so let's see. I think that maybe, so here's my thought. And then I'm going to bring Addie downstairs and then I'm going to come back. So while I am in absentia, Abby, we haven't heard much from you about, so you guys may not know, I don't think she mentioned it, that Abby and Yoni are some of Gann's longest running faculty members, and most beloved. So Abby, you want to share something about something you really love about our students, and then I'll be back. And Matt Conti, you too.
Happy to do it, Lily. Addie.
I got a question in the chat. Maybe this will be helpful in your framing. It was about writing again, and how much writing is involved, and how you help support kids through writing in multiple iterations of essays and analyzing text. So if you could just speak to your area of expertise, that would be great.
Yeah, and I think the only student that I haven't had is Emma. Emma, I look forward to maybe having you as a student one day. I think that we are a very critical thinking based school, and writing is certainly a big part of that. And I look upon my students as I want to know what they think, what they have to say, and I look on it as my job to be their writing coach. Wherever they are is fine with me. Wherever they start, I want to take them to the next place with their writing. One of the things that I think is important about Gann's writing instruction is that we, first of all, comprehension is everything. Do you understand what you have read? And can you, once you've understood what you've read, can you help us to understand what you understand? And I'm always pushing my students, and those of you who are my students will, I'm sure, say, yeah, that's true, Ms. Shapiro. I'm always pushing my students to go to the so what. Okay, great. That's a thing. That happened in Macbeth. That happened in The Great Gatsby. So what? Why is it significant? It's not enough to just know that it happened. We push our students in their writing to explain the so what, the significance, the why. And I would assert that our students really grow as writers in their 4 years at Gann, and that they know that it's not just about the fact that, say, there are symbols in a book. So what? What do those symbols do? What about them? Why is it amazing or cool that there is a symbol in that book? And I think that writing instruction across the curriculum emphasizes taking your ideas further, deeper, expressing yourself clearly, and also, I guess, with empathy. One of the things that we want our students to feel, and you can certainly hear it in the Fernald project and the other things that we do, is empathy for the other, understanding of the other, and learning about ourselves through understanding others in our writing.
Thanks, Abby. That's why I love working in the English department. It's the best. But really what Abby's describing, I think, I don't know, Greg and Rachel and Yoni and Matt, I think you guys would agree that that's something we're really all working on. Wendy, I saw your hand up.
I was just going to share that I heard Abby share a story once about how what her kids were learning in her English class, they were relating to their other classes, including Jewish studies, but some other. So it was just really nice to hear how they were taking that information, processing it, analyzing it, and then applying it to different areas of their learning.
Well, I mean, Jordan, in your Frankenstein essay, could you just tell everyone what your topic is and what your thesis is and what you're doing with that?
Absolutely. So I'm currently writing an essay. The book that we just read is Frankenstein. And the essay topic that I chose, I'm talking about the biblical references, especially to the Genesis story that we see in relation to the creation of the monster, and what that tells us about Victor, which Ms. Shapiro is going to have to wait to read in my essay.
Can't wait, Jordan. Can't wait.
Okay, so I think it's 4:40, so we're going to do some final thoughts. And actually, I'm going to see if any kids want to, actually, let's do final thoughts from the teachers, and then I'm going to let the kids sort of have the final word. So Matt, Greg, Yoni, Rachel, any final thoughts? Mr. Key, and then Miss Senorita.
One of the things the students have talked about that I've certainly always valued at Gann is the relationship between the students and the teachers. We really do strive to have a very positive relationship and to really understand our students, the whole student, and it's something that I certainly have found tremendously valuable, and I believe the students have also. I just got a email from a member of the class of 2016 who was keeping in touch, actually, which is very nice to see.
Awesome. Rachel?
I'll just interrupt really quick and say Mr. Key is at every single sporting event. So this is one of the ways that our faculty really just, loves to get to know students, just from a lot of different angles, a lot of different lenses. So he is our #1 Gann fan.
I just wanted to sort of go off of what Yoni said in terms of the Fernald School project and how that really shaped the junior U.S. history curriculum. So in the World Languages Department, where we offer Spanish, French, and Arabic, which Jordan mentioned in his Arabic class, we don't use any textbooks, and we've created our curriculum ourselves based on what we think the students should know, how we can relate that to other things going on at Gann and our students' lives. And that has made me really enjoy teaching at Gann because I get to teach things outside of a textbook that I think are just really fascinating, really interesting, and we get to dig into things that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise. And I think, when I hear about like English classes or history classes or even, a lot of the upper level courses, I'm always like, oh, wow, I really wish I could take that course. Or I get my book recommendations from a lot of the English teachers because I know they're teaching such a wide variety of texts. And I think that sort of speaks across the board that the Gann curriculum is really rich and fun to delve into.
Awesome, thanks. Mr. Conti, awesome.
I just wanted to there are two kind of final thoughts I had. One is, kind of jumping off the idea about like writing support for students. One of the things that I think is really impressive about the school, and this is like my 12th year there, so I've been a long time, like a lot of different kinds of roles, is just like the support in the classroom, first of all, is like a dean, I sort of see this a lot, like the support in the classroom is like really excellent, that teachers really teach students how to write essays. And so they come out knowing a lot and like having something to work with from the beginning. But we also have like a writing center and we have a learning center. And so like students can kind of like go to different levels of support there. Advisors also like really helpful too. Like if students want to like talk through an idea, sometimes advisors will do that with teachers or with their advisees as well. And so there's just all these kinds of like different supports in place to help students kind of work through, what is like a rigorous dual curriculum during their time at Gann. And then the other thing that has kind of like been true, even as like people have come and gone and like department chairs have changed, of my like decade plus at Gann, is just like how deep the kids are, like the students are deep thinkers who really care about the world. And I think like we've seen this a lot now as like a teacher and watching them all kind of like engage with the world that they're living in this moment, that they're thinking deeply about it, they're engaging with it, they're talking with each other about it, they're talking with us about it. And so I think like, there's this way in which this has been true at the school for the time I've been there. It's really just ingrained into the culture. So that's like my thought.
Awesome. Okay, so I think that actually to close out, I'm going to ask each one of our students to share why did you choose Gann? So, for some of you, it was a more recent decision. And for some of you, Elijah, you probably feel like you were a different kid 4 years ago than you are now. But if each one of you could just share with us like why you chose Gann, that would be great. And we're going to go youngest to oldest. Okay. So Emma, you ready? Go ahead.
For me, it was definitely the community. So when I went on my tour and also revisit day and step up day, I was able to see like the community between like the peers and student to teachers, and that's something that like I really value at Gann. And
Great. Asaf and Jordan, I don't know who has an earlier birthday, so we're going to go with Asaf because it's alphabetically first.
He's actually like, I think 4 days older than me, but so I think I chose Gann. Well, I have an older brother who just graduated last year, and I heard a lot of good things from him. He was in Mr. Pira's class. And I also really valued the community that there was there, and I saw the different courses that you could take, and I was just really eager to like branch out and do something new.
Awesome. Jordan?
Yeah, this is fairly similar to what Emma said, and it pains me that you or your children don't have the opportunity to come, shadow a student, because obviously school isn't what it usually is. But when I was first shadowing at Gann, I was walking around the halls and I was like, nah, like something's off. People are genuinely happy and like really want to be here, which was something that I really hadn't seen about most other places. I toured another high school as well, and it just wasn't the same environment. And that little spark that I was able to pick up when I went and visited is completely the truth, and it's how Gann is daily.
I would argue, Jordan, just to like insert myself for 1 second, that like actually I kind of get that in my Zoom classes too. Like when
I would completely agree. I was just saying, since we can't really tour the building right now, it might be hard to really see that, but I would completely agree with you and say that I feel the same sense of community now. It just might be harder for others to look in and see it.
Yeah.
Ellie, can I just piggyback up for 1 sec? So this is my 20th year again. So I've been to a lot of Gann graduations every single year. So the kids write, each of them writes a paragraph in the graduation book, and so many of them describe being so happy as high school students, which is just so foreign to me from my experience as a high school student, which were the worst 12 years of my life. So the fact that you have these kids who are so blasted happy to be at high school is a remarkable thing. I think that is worth noting.
All right, Jack.
Yeah, no, I mean, going off of that, I mean, it was something I noticed pretty much immediately as soon as I started. Like, I came for the tours and I started interacting with the students and the other teachers. And I had also toured another high school, and I had toured that one first, and I had been like, oh, I like it, this seems nice. And then as I was walking through school, Gann, it almost felt alien to me. I was just like a little weirded out that everybody was smiling, everybody was laughing, and for the free time they have spaces where kids can chill out and take a break. They had a foosball table, and I was like, and this is school. And then on the other hand, also, I talked to the teachers about the academic program, and it sounded also like really rigorous. And I was sort of impressed also that Gann kind of had that nice duality of both the ability to support students in their social growth and, in their mental health and stability in a rigorous or an academically rigorous school, but also have and maintain those tough classes and really make kids learn and question things. And I thought, like, after visiting, I was immediately like, yeah, I think Gann is it. And I'm really glad that I came. So
Awesome. All right, Elijah, you get to close us out as our resident 12th grader.
So if I had to narrow down the reason I chose Gann into one thing, I would say it would be the teachers. Touring and visiting classes, I could see how much they cared about their students as people and how much they cared about their classes, their content. I can honestly say that over 4 years at Gann, I really don't think I've had any busy work. The work that we do has intention behind it, there's reason behind it, and it's interesting for the students to do. And I could see that you could tailor your path at Gann to your interests and to your level. I picked up the course packet when I was 14 years old. I went to the open house, picked up the course packet, and I saw, look, a class on the Supreme Court, I want to take that. So for 4 years, I wanted to take that class. Finally got to take it. And I've been really grateful for the education that I've gotten at Gann. I can't say enough about the school. And I wouldn't have had the same developmental journey or had the same interest that I have today if I was at another high school.
Amazing. Well, that's a mic drop way to close, Elijah. So I'm going to turn it over to Wendy, but I mostly just want to wish everyone Oh, Yoni, do you see in the chat that Sam Asel Green wants to talk to you about his learning adventure? So Sam, you should know, Mr. Cadden is very easy to find. I'm going to put his email address in the chat box.
Lily, it would actually be great if all of our teachers and students, if they don't mind, would put their emails in our chat box, and then we will add them to our accepted students landing page, which Emily is going to share. And I also want to just note that we do have one more panel tomorrow night, but it's a different time. So it's at 6 p.m. Hearing from some Gann alums, recent alums, and Dr. Hoffman. But our teachers are, I love Mr. Key's math teacher. Our teachers are more than happy and willing to talk to anybody. Our students are amazing about reaching out to kids. So feel free to reach out. I don't really want to close because the rest of you are so amazing.
Well, should we just wish everyone a Zis Pesach?
Yes, please.
Wonderful
Can you say what
Passover.
that means? Yes. A happy and a healthy Passover to everybody. We are continuing our online learning, so our kids, what you see is real because they're doing it through Zooms every day. But thank you again. Let us know if you have questions. To our panelists, amazing, amazing. We are so grateful. So have a wonderful night, everybody. Stay healthy. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Thanks so much, guys.